Hey, DiJonai, how you feeling right now, girl? I'm trying to contact you about that extended warranty. You know, two weeks ago, you posted on Twitter August 23rd, which is would you look at that? Oh, that was today. DiJonai, when you said August 23rd, what did you mean by this exactly? I think the fans want answers. We were expecting, some vengeance that you created. We were expecting a huge game. We were expecting something.
Game we had today. DiJonai Carrington completely humbled by Caitlin Clark. And then she gonna try to shoulder shrug Caitlin. Caitlin like, girl, get out of here, bro. I just bust you, pick your face up off the floor. Caitlin Clark hit a logo 3 in her face. Then she was trying to mock. Caitlin Clark got the tech. She got it.
In 18 minutes, she dropped 7 points, shooting 3 for 11 from the field. Now the real tweet that you should have posted, DiJonai Carrington, should have been March 11th, because if I had known that you was going to shoot 3 for 11 on August 23rd, I would have commented that under your post sooner. You came and you literally laid
15 days before the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever met again, DJ Carrington sat down and typed out 2 numbers, 8, 23. That's it. No caption, no explanation, nothing else attached to it. Just a date, posted right after she'd been ejected from a game against Indiana for a flagrant foul, tagging the Fever on her way out the door. And if you know anything about how these things work online, you already know what that post was actually saying underneath the surface.
Dirtbag, DiJonai, clout chaser, Carrington. Careful what you wish for, DiJonai. Be careful what you wish for. You're the one that circled 8/23 on the calendar. You're the one who tweeted out 8/23 as if it was some date we all should pay attention to. And people paid attention and saw you. Ooh, you had a bad game. Oh, but 8/23. Fair. Caitlin Clark makes 8 3-pointers. The Indiana Fever win by 23 points. Great foresight on your end, DiJonai Carrington.
It wasn't a schedule reminder. It was a promise. It was DJ Carrington telling everybody watching that when these two teams lined up again on August 23rd, she was going to be ready, she was going to make a statement, and she was going to get her moment of payback against Caitlin Clark and the Fever. Well, August 23rd came and went, and it's safe to say that the moment did not go the way DJ Carrington was hoping it would.
This clip is going viral of Caitlin Clark getting poked in the eye by DiJonai Carrington. It happened in the first quarter when Clark tried passing the ball to her teammate Aaliyah Boston, but Carrington poked Clark in the eye while trying to deflect the pass. No foul was called, but Clark had to take a second to regain her composure. In the third quarter, DiJonai was defending Caitlin again when Caitlin hit DiJonai in the head, knocking out one of her contacts. No foul was called, but DiJonai had to take a second to put her contact back in.
The tension between DJ Carrington and the Indiana Fever did not start out of nowhere on August 8th. This is a rivalry that goes back years at this point, all the way to Clark's very first WNBA playoff game back in September of 2024, when Carrington caught Clark near the right eye while contesting a pass over the top to Aaliyah Boston. Clark went down clutching her face in obvious pain, no foul was even called on the play, and she finished that entire game with a visible black eye that became one of the biggest storylines of the entire postseason.
DiJonai, did you, when you went and kind of swatted at Caitlin, did you intend to hit her in the eye? And if so, could you just, or if not, either way, could you talk about what happened on that play?
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am. So yeah.
Did you and Marina kind of laugh about it afterwards? It looked like there was later on in the game they caught you guys laughing about it.
No, I just told you I didn't even know I hit her, so I can't laugh about something I didn't know happened.
Both players called it unintentional afterward, and on the replay it genuinely does look like a bang-bang basketball play, rather than anything deliberate. But that moment still became a whole storyline of its own, replayed constantly, debated constantly online for days afterward, and it planted the first real seeds of tension between these two specific players. Since then, almost every single Fever Sun or Fever Sky matchup involving Carrington guarding Clark has carried a little extra edge to it, a little extra chirping, a little extra physicality that goes beyond the normal contact you'd expect between two competitors who genuinely respect each other's games.
What's going on here? You! That's assault, brother. You can't do that. What the fuck? Is this just the default if you can't think? Or if you just, like, don't want to take accountability for your actions? Oh my god, this league, bro. This league. Bro. White privilege while you're wearing a bleach blonde dyed wig. I mean, the fuck? What is privileged about that? You stone cold Steve Austin clotheslined her.
Back on August 8th in Chicago, Carrington came flying in from behind on a fast break and caught Sophie Cunningham across the head and neck while Cunningham was finishing a layup attempt. It was reviewed by the officiating crew, upgraded from a common foul to a flagrant 2, and DJ Carrington was tossed from the game on the spot, sent straight to the locker room before the second half even started. That part, fair or not, depending on who you ask, is just basketball. Hard fouls happen, ejections happen, tempers flare in the heat of a game, and normally that would be the end of the story until the next time these two teams meet again on the schedule. But DJ Carrington didn't let it end there, and that's exactly where this entire situation started spiraling into something much bigger than one ejection.
DiJonai, you hit her in the head and you drew blood. It was a flagrant 2. You should have been ejected. No more, no less. Have we seen Sophie Cunningham aggressively foul an individual before and not get thrown out of the game? Sure. Have we seen Caitlin Clark aggressively foul an individual by hitting them in the head and not get out of the game? Absolutely. But if we are paying attention to what DiJonai Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham, it was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the term of white privilege and to also completely ignore the rules in basketball. You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever.
Minutes after getting sent to the locker room, Carrington posted white privilege on social media and tagged the Indiana Fever directly in the post. That single sentence turned a routine ejection into a national story almost overnight, with everybody from casual fans to sports radio hosts to television pundits weighing in on what she actually meant by it and whether the accusation was fair given the context of the foul itself. Carrington later pushed back on some of the backlash, clarifying that she never specifically claimed the flagrant call itself was the direct result of racial bias, and pointing out that she studied structural inequality at one of the top universities in the country before she ever used that kind of language publicly. Maybe that clarification is completely accurate, and maybe there's more nuance to it than a lot of people online gave her credit for in the moment. But here's the thing about throwing a phrase like that out into the world attached to a specific team's name in the heat of an ejection. It doesn't just disappear quietly into the timeline the next morning. It sits there. It builds anticipation. It turns the very next matchup between these two teams into something that feels a lot bigger than just another regular season basketball game on the calendar.
DiJonai Carrington bookmarking this day just to get embarrassed by Caitlin Clark. The big bad wolf coming through, blowing houses down until she tried to blow down the Caitlin Clark brick house that was built by DiJonai. This lady was 3 for 11. 3 for 11, 0 for 3 from the 3. A terrible performance. My goodness. Tried to come out and take the show, right? Tried to create her moment. And guess what, DiJonai? Now your name is DiJonai Who Carrington. Who cares? Oh my goodness. 8:23, everybody. 8:23.
So that's the actual backdrop heading into August 23rd. DJ Carrington sitting on a controversial ejection, a viral, heavily scrutinized social media post, and a very public warning shot aimed squarely at Caitlin Clark and the entire Fever organization. Fans on both sides of this rivalry knew exactly what this next game was going to be about long before the ball was even tipped that night. This wasn't just Sky versus Fever anymore, two teams jockeying for playoff positioning in a crowded standings race. This had turned into DJ Carrington trying to prove a point on a stage she had chosen for herself, trying to show the basketball world she wasn't rattled by any of the backlash, and trying to show that when these two teams shared the floor again, she was going to be the one dictating the terms of engagement from the opening tip. That's a tremendous amount of pressure to put on yourself in a public post 2 full weeks in advance of the actual game. And it's exactly the kind of self-imposed pressure that has a way of backfiring the moment the ball is actually tipped and the cameras start rolling for real.
Getting used to play on the court as a rookie, that she brings a defensive mentality. That'll be the first personal on DJ Carrington.
Fast forward now to the second quarter of the actual game on August 23rd. Chicago is holding on to a slim 4-point lead at that point, which, credit where it's genuinely due, is more competitive than a lot of people expected out of this particular Sky roster against this specific version of the Fever. Carrington is guarding Clark tightly on a drive into the paint, gets called for a foul blocking the lane, and instead of just accepting the whistle and getting back to set up on defense the way most players do a dozen times a night without a second thought, she starts arguing directly with referee Charles Watson. She throws her head back dramatically, exaggerates the contact well beyond what actually happens, and essentially performs a small flop of her own while simultaneously accusing Caitlin Clark of being the one who flopped on the exact same play. If any of that sounds oddly familiar, it's because this is not new behavior from DJ Carrington, specifically when it comes to matchups against Clark. She pulled almost the exact same move, the same accusation, the same dramatic body language, years earlier during a Fever Sun game when she was still with Connecticut. It's practically become her signature response whenever a whistle goes against her, specifically while guarding Clark.
So the game that DiJonai Carrington had circled on her calendar and wanted the world to see happened tonight. And how did it turn out? Caitlin Clark had 37 points, 10 assists, 8 threes, and we got this lovely reaction. But I want to point out something that happened in the game. Some of the Chicago Sky, including DiJonai Carrington, to me, were looking for a fight this game. And Caitlin, instead of talking about it in the media, just did it with her basketball skills, and this is one of the plays that happened.
Indiana can regain the lead. Clark, another step back three. Yes! And a little bit of passion afterwards. You love it. This is...
So DiJonai purposely runs into Clark, and then Clark just waves her off. Just waves her off. You can tell that Clark was just over that storyline and with that rivalry.
Here's where things get genuinely uncomfortable for DJ Carrington. And this is the exact part everybody online latched onto instantly once the clips started circulating. About 30 seconds after that whole flopping performance directed at the referee, Caitlin Clark calmly walks the ball up the floor, gets a clean, uncontested look well beyond the three-point arc, and drills a step-back logo 3 directly in Carrington's face. Not a contested, low-percentage miss. Not a lucky bounce that happened to go in off the back iron. A clean, confident, in-rhythm three-pointer from nearly 30 feet out, launched right after DJ Carrington had just spent the better part of half a minute trying to convince an official that Clark was somehow the dramatic, theatrical one on that exact possession. The timing could not have possibly been worse for her if somebody had sat down and scripted it that way on purpose for maximum comedic effect.
Here we have Caitlin Clark cooking DiJonai Carrington's boots, and then DiJonai Carrington goes out of her way to bump into Caitlin Clark as she's running down the floor. Let's take a look.
Clark, another step back three. Yes. And a little bit of passion afterwards. You love it.
DiJonai Carrington bumps into Caitlin Clark. Watch this. This is the funniest part. And then Caitlin Clark treats her like Raven Johnson in South Carolina and says, please, look how disrespectful this is. This is a you're not even worth my time type of wave off. This is a not even worth my time type of wave off. Damn, not even worth it. You're not even worth it. Look at this. Whew, wasting my time. DiJonai Carrington, what a...
And then, almost immediately after watching that shot go through the net with nothing but net, cameras catch DJ Carrington intentionally bumping into Caitlin Clark while both players are jogging back up the floor in transition. It wasn't officially whistled as a foul in the moment, with the referees letting the contact go as the game kept flowing, but it didn't need to be called for everybody watching at home to understand exactly what that bump actually was. That's frustration, plain and simple. That's a player who had just talked a big game at the referee, gotten dunked on emotionally by a logo-range three-pointer roughly 30 seconds later, and reacted the only way she seemed to know how to react in that specific moment, which was to shove somebody who genuinely wasn't even looking for a confrontation in the first place. Clark, for her part, didn't even flinch at the contact. She kept jogging up the floor, kept her focus entirely on the game in front of her, and let her actual play on the court do all of the talking that mattered from that point forward.
Let's see what America's team, the best team in the league, with the best player on the team today. Let's see. Oh, come here. Yeah, historic night. Okay, best player in the league. Ooh, look at how she got it. Look, when the team is wearing through Caitlin, look at how beautiful it is. Okay, Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Oh, Caitlin on the defense. Look at that. Defense. They say she don't play it. Okay. Okay. Swing it. Oh. Swing it. Oh.
One more pass.
Three.
Misses that one.
Oh,
Indiana
okay.
can regain the lead.
I want some more. You come back.
Clark, another step back three. Yes.
Because here's what actually happened for the rest of that night while DJ Carrington was busy trying to get some kind of reaction out of her. Caitlin Clark simply went off for the remainder of the game. She finished the night with 37 points and 10 assists, knocking down 8 three-pointers along the way in an absolutely ridiculous, historically efficient shooting performance from a player who had just been mocked for supposedly flopping less than a full minute earlier in that same quarter. The Fever didn't just beat the Sky that particular night, they thoroughly demolished them from start to finish, winning by a full 23 points, a final margin that almost felt symbolic, given that DG Carrington had circled this exact date weeks in advance as her personal moment to make a statement against this exact opponent. The final score that night read 113-90, and every single one of those 23 points of separation felt like a direct, unmistakable answer to that 823 post she had made 2 full weeks earlier.
This is not a skin color thing. She has a history of making dirty plays, and it's fine. The NBA, you can be a rough and tumble league. Now, where this thing gets absolutely bananas is when you start making it into a race and culture war, and the people talking about it are not mentioning 99% of the time that she went back and tweeted white privilege. White privilege how? You made a dirty play. Sophie Cunningham, everyone's putting up clips of her like tackling a player on a drive, defending Caitlin. You say, well, she got kicked out of the game for that too and didn't say anything after.
The reaction online was swift, and it genuinely was not kind to DJ Carrington once the highlights started making the rounds. Dave Portnoy, never one to hold back an opinion on anything happening in sports, called her out directly, saying her entire recent existence in this rivalry seems to revolve around making a fool of herself against Caitlin Clark and the Fever, and he referenced that original white privilege post from 2 weeks earlier while doing it on air. He put it about as bluntly as you possibly can, saying Clark popped her head off and dribbled her around like a basketball for 37 points and 10 assists on the exact night DJ Carrington herself had marked on the calendar. It's a harsh way to frame it, sure, and plenty of people online pushed back on the tone of that specific criticism. But it's genuinely hard to argue with the actual timeline of events as they played out in real time. DJ talked, Caitlin played, and the final numbers on the scoreboard spoke a whole lot louder than anything either one of them actually said out loud beforehand.
Djonai flopped the whole game. She is so obnoxious. Oh yeah, she really is obnoxious. Then Clark hits a three right in her face. Funny because Carrington had a pretty soft foul that went her way on the other end. She's been running her mouth and trying to get a reaction out of Clark all game. Clark hasn't given it to her. And that probably eats up Djonai Carrington. The fact that she couldn't get a reaction out of Caitlin Clark, that probably eats her up inside. Here we have, well, the white privilege Caitlin Clark versus instigator Djonai Carrington. I think Caitlin got you tonight. Nay. That's nay. 37 points to 7 points. Ooh, she scored 30 more points than you. Damn. Same amount of rebounds, 10 assists to 1 assist. Yikes. Damn, Djonai, that's a crazy picture.
What makes this whole season so telling isn't just that Carrington lost the individual battle on the stat sheet that night, even though she absolutely did in almost every meaningful way imaginable. It's the sharp contrast in how each player actually carried themselves in real time once the pressure of that specific date finally arrived. DJ Carrington spent large stretches of that game arguing with officials, mimicking flops that didn't happen the way she described them, and shoving a player who wasn't engaging with her theatrics at all. Caitlin Clark spent that same game doing exactly what she has done all season long for the Fever, catching the ball in rhythm, reading the defense a half second ahead of everybody else, and making shots from ranges that most players in this entire league simply don't attempt with that kind of unshakable confidence. She never had to say a single word to answer that 823 post publicly. She just let 8 three-pointers, 37 total points, and 10 assists do all of the talking for her on the exact date DJ herself had picked out weeks in advance for her big moment.
Carrington fouling Caitlin Clark right here. Look at this, man. So she's reaching in for the ball, fouling Caitlin Clark. We can visibly see she's going in. Caitlin has the ball all the way out here. So clearly you didn't get basketball. You got something else. If you got basketball, the ball would have left Caitlin Clark's hand, it would have got, deflected or something. It would have went out that way. It would have been a loose ball. But no, Caitlin still has full control of her dribble. What she doesn't have control over is you all in her space, hand checking her, smacking her. And the referee sees it, calls the whistle, and you immediately, instead of reacting, this is how I know you're a victim. You get weaponized by the other victims in the black community, right? Because, listen, there's multiple communities in the black community. There's the victim side, and then there's the side that stands for what's right. I'm on the side that stands for what's right? And I have a bunch of black supporters on this channel who is also on that same side. We don't care about skin color. We care about good product. We care about right or wrong. We care if you're a good human being. I don't care.
There's a genuine lesson buried in here for anybody paying close attention to how this specific rivalry keeps playing out, game after game, season after season. When you spend 2 full weeks publicly building anticipation around one specific date, telling the entire internet you're coming for revenge against a particular opponent, you're setting an incredibly high bar for yourself before a single possession has even actually been played. And when the person you're trying to rattle happens to be one of the most mentally composed competitors in the entire league right now, somebody who has already been doubled, hard-fouled, mocked, and bumped in nearly every single matchup against this specific opponent for multiple seasons running, that entire plan tends to collapse extremely fast under the actual pressure of live competition. Caitlin Clark has heard every version of this before at this point in her career. She's had a black eye from that unintentional Carrington contact going all the way back to her rookie playoff debut. She's had technical fouls called and later rescinded after questionable contact on both ends of the floor. She's absorbed flopping accusations from this exact same player more than once now across multiple seasons. And every single time, without much variation at all, her answer has looked almost identical. She doesn't post about it publicly. She doesn't respond to it in interviews with any real edge. She just shows up on game day and lets her actual game on the floor speak louder than anybody else's warning shot ever could hope to.
And Caitlin Clark once again made history last night. She had 37 points. She had 10 assists. And this is now her 5th game in her career having at least 30 points and at least 10 assists. And that is more than the entire WNBA combined. Let that sink in for a second, you guys. She has not even played 3 full seasons in the WNBA. She hasn't even really played 2 full seasons because of how much she was out with injury last year. And she's already breaking records like that. Like, she had an outstanding night. She hit 8 threes on the night. She was 8 for 12 from 3. So many of those were like FU threes, like the heat checks that she was pulling.
Caitlin Clark just put together one of her best all-around performances of the entire season. 37 points, 10 assists, 8 made three-pointers, against the exact opponent who had spent 2 full weeks promising to make life difficult for her specifically. Djonai Carrington, meanwhile, is left explaining a heated foul argument that didn't land the way she wanted, a flop accusation that clearly backfired on camera, and a shove-in transition that only ended up making the entire moment look considerably worse once the slow-motion replay started circulating online. The scoreboard that night read 23 points of separation on the exact date she had circled for herself weeks earlier. Sometimes the loudest warning shots online end up being the ones that backfire the absolute hardest once the actual game finally arrives, and this is exactly one of those nights for everybody to remember. Caitlin Clark didn't need to warn anybody about anything beforehand. She just showed up, played her game the way she always does, and once again, that alone turned out to be more than enough to answer every single thing Djonai Carrington had said about her.